أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد اللهم صل على وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Nahj al-Balaghah's first khutbah has been under discussion. We've reached the point in this khutbah where we will be inshallah discussing the sifat khalqi Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, the description of the creation of Hazrat Adam. Now, as you've seen, just a quick recap, this first khutbah, which is one of the lengthier khutbahs of Nahj al-Balaghah, began with the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Praise included the recognition and the ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then all of these are pretty much returning us back to the ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the last discussion of the khalq al-alam, when the creation of the entire universe was concerned, eventual purpose behind that was to recognize Allah. When we spoke about khilqat of malaika, the creation of the malaika, the eventual purpose was to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the malaika's discussion, after malaika's discussion, Allah Amir al-Mu'mineen speaks about the khilqat and the creation of Hazrat Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. Now, what is the achievement by discussing the khilqat of Hazrat Adam? Well, you and I are children of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. So it is important that we know what brought us into this existence. Who brought us into this existence? We already know. That's Allah. Even the mushrikeen of that time, if you were to ask him, who's your khaliq? They would say, La yaqulun Allah. Allah is the khaliq. So they didn't have any dispute as far as the khilqat, khaliqiyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was concerned. So we know that Allah is the khaliq. But the intricacies of the khilqat of Insan is where Imam alludes to in this khutbah. So he begins, ثُمَّ جَمَعَ سُبْحَانَهُ مِنْ حَزْنِ الْأَرْضِ وَسَهْلِهَا. That Allah collected, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, jama'a, meaning he collected, min hazn al-ardi wa sahliha. Hazn here refers to the hard part of the earth. So, for example, the rocks, the boulder, the places which are hard. Wa sahliha, of course, that which is easy. Urdu mein bhi ye kehna, ye bahut amr sahl hai. Oh, didn't go forward. This action is very easy, sahl. So similar word is being used over here. That Allah collected from the hard surface and from the soft surface. وَعَذْبِهَا وَسَبْخِهَا. Azb, you might have heard it as a feature of water, right? Shiyatima in sharabtum ma'a azbin. Ma'azb, this is the dua that Imam Hussain made. That, oh my Shia, whenever you drink, Ma'u azbin, my azb, water which is sweet, water which is, Farsi mein usko kehte gowara, meaning that you drink, that is, drinkable water, or in fact, water which you drink and you quench your thirst with it, something which will satiate you. So, azbiha wa sabkhiha. So Allah collected from the sweet portion of the earth and the sour of the earth. Turbatan sannaha bil ma'i hatta khalasat. And then he, clay which he dipped in water until it became pure. Of course, our creation is with the clay. Now, clay could be dirty, could be smelly, could have all these other features. Allah dipped it in the water because water is one of the purifying agents. It can purify everything except that which is internally najis. The water can purify everything that is mutanajjis, meaning has become najis. in contact with something else. But something which is inherently najis, of course, even water cannot purify. What is the example? Water cannot purify a dog, right? No matter how much you give a shower to a dog, it'll remain najis. But if someone has touched the dog in wetness or any other najasat like blood or feces or anything that has come in contact, water can purify that. It's one of the main purifying agents. So Allah said, Imam said, "Turbatan sannaha bil ma'i hatta khalasat." Dip the sand or this clay under the water until it became pure. وَلَاتَهَا بِالْبَلَّةِ حَتَّى لَزَبَتْ فَجَبَلَا مِنْهَا سُورَةً ذَاتَ أَحْنَاءٍ وَوُصُولٍ وَعَضَاءٍ وَفُصُولٍ. That after the clay that he dipped in the water got pure, he kneaded it with moisture till it became gluey. You know, आटा गूंथते हैं जब उसमें पानी डालते हैं, add more water so that it's not dry and it's not stiff. You make it more and more gluey. You know, if you kneaded the flour, that's what basically was done. And then from it he carved an image with curves, joints, limbs, and segments. So after this gluey substance was created, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shaped Insan in these curves that you see on the faces, on the ears, on the nose, eyes, the dipping of the eyes, and the other body parts that Allah has created, the arms and the legs. All of these were then created in this fashion. So the joints, the limbs, and the segments. He solidified it with it and dried it up for a fixed time and a known duration. So وَأَجْمَدَهَا حَتَّى اسْتَمْسَكَتْ وَأَصْلَدَهَا حَتَّى صَلْصَلَتْ لِوَقْتٍ مَعْدُودٍ وَأَمَدٍ مَعْلُومٍ, until a specified period. I'm going to stop over here. We see that Imam is mentioning about the khilqat of Insan, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Hazrat Adam alayhi salatu wasalam from variety of sands, sour, sweet, dry, wet. Is it literally the case, or Allah is referring to something, in the background of it? There's a philosophy behind it. There's a good tafsir about it that says these different types of sands that Allah is referring to, or Imam is referring to, that Allah created Insan with, these refer to the fitrat, the nature, salahiyat, and the capability of Insan, that these different features that you see in the creation of Insan, that Insan is able to achieve many things, multitask, has capability of reaching the moon and beyond. This is the thamara and the fruit of the different types of clay that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used in the creation of Insan. Then it talks about that as far as the khilqat of Insan is concerned, Allah could have just said kun, and it could become, right? Allah didn't need all these different types of sands and watering it and kneading it like the flour, just as if he's making a bread out of it. No. Why did he go through this process? So, there are certain things in alam, they require gradual process. Allah can create it in an instant, but they require a gradual process. I'll give you an example. Have you not read in Quran where Allah says, خَلَقَ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ فِي سِتَّةِ أَيَّامٍ. Allah created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. Why did we need 6 days? Could have done it in a moment, right? It's not like you and I are constructing a building. We need materials, we need all the other things, and we need to put it together and to come into existence. Allah can just make it be. He said, no, there are certain things that require a gradual process. fi sittati ayyamin, that refers to the fact that, their process of a tree growing into a humongous tree is a gradual process. You don't put a seed in the ground and it becomes a miracle grow and it's all of a sudden a grown tree. Similar to Insan. When Insan is born, you're not born a grown man or a woman. You're born as an infant. Then you grow and you become a child who's of certain age, and then you continue to grow. And then there's certain features that come about in your body that reflect your growth, and eventually it reaches bulugh, and then it physically you're baligh, and then it comes a point when you are mentally and intellectually baligh. There's a whole process of it. Allah could have done it in an instant. And this is where we understand the instantaneous aspect of this. How many of you have seen a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old be a prodigy, a genius? Very rare, right? Very rare. But that was a feature that was found in Aimma from the very beginning. Aimma, they did not attain this knowledge in this world, or Anbiya for that matter. They didn't come in this world and then they started attending universities and colleges and going through the kindergarten and school to become something. From the cradle, they were already at that level. That's why Hazrat Isa alayhi in the arms of his mother is saying what? Inni Abdullah, atani al-kitab wa ja'alani nabiyya. That I am the servant of God, I have the book, I've been given this shariat, and so on and so forth. So from here we understand that when Allah speaks about different levels of it, when Allah talks about, this sand or that sand or this or that, all that is a discussion where it's not something which is physically sort of taking place, that was the process. Rather, it refers to the different intricacies that exist in Insan. It is a pointer toward Insan's abilities, Insan's salahiyat, the capabilities that this Insan has. And then this is also a referral that Insan is so unaware of his own creation. We know so much about the other creations. We know so much about other animals and their creation and everything about them. But we're so ignorant about our own creation. We don't know what is the origin of our substance that we are made of. We know we're made of clay, for example. What is the origination of that? We don't know the essence of our soul. Do cheezein na? Body and the soul. We don't know where this body came from, and we don't know where this soul came from. The origination of it. That is the lack of knowledge that Insan has as far. But Allah gave this kamal to Insan, that this very Insan, or we're talking about Hazrat Adam in here, became Masjid-e-Ali. That Allah gave it so much, creating it from the sour and this and that brought him to a level, spiritually speaking, that malaika who were doing sajda to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now are ordered to do what? Sajda to Hazrat Adam alayhi salam. That is the level where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took Insan. Coming back to our discussion, because we only spent about 25-30 minutes to it. It says, ثُمَّ نَفَخَ فِيهَا مِنْ رُوحِهِ فَمَثُلَتْ or فَتَمَثَّلَتْ. Both are used. Then comes the real part. After this physical creation of Hazrat Adam was done, what was remaining? The ruh was remaining. Ayat of Quran. Bracket mein likha hua hai, it means it has appeared in the khutbah both ways. So some of the nuskha that we received of Nahj al-Balaghah, it came as tamathalat. In some of the nuskha it came as mathalat. Resemblance, tamsil. But both words, that is another thing, because when you receive these words, Nahj al-Balaghah or any hadith, The one who was narrating it, someone who narrated it used the word tamathalat. Someone who narrated it used the word mathulat. So that's where we have the both. So therefore nothing is left out. So then it mentions that then Allah blew into it out of His Spirit, whereupon it took the pattern of a human being with a mind that governs him. So now, the physical aspect was created. What gave Insan intellect? What gave Insan the ability to think? What gave Insan mind that governs him? When Allah blew His soul into Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. Then it continues, وَفِكَرٍ يَتَصَرَّفُ بِهَا وَجَوَارِحَ يَخْتَدِمُهَا وَأَدَوَاتٍ يُقَلِّبُهَا وَمَعْرِفَةٍ يَفْرُقُ بِهَا مِنَ الْحَقِّ وَالْبَاطِلِ وَالْأَذْوَاقِ وَالْمَشَامِ وَالْأَلْوَانِ وَالْأَجْنَاسِ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, after creating Hazrat Adam alayhi wasalam, giving him all of these things, blowing his soul into him, gave him a mind that governs him, intelligence which he makes use of, limbs that serve him. Our body should be serving us. These hands should be obedient to our mind, not the other way around, that these hands go ahead and dictate things for us. This, other adha and jawari should not be dictating, rather the mind should be dictating and should be governing. That's what at least the purpose was, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the mind to be musallat upon our body parts, not the other way around. And then the organs and the limbs that serve him, the organs that change his position, sagacity that differentiates between truth and untruth, tastes and smells, color and species. So again, the majmu'ah of what could be brought from all that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave. This is all the product of just this aql that Allah gave Insan, this intelligence that Allah bestowed upon him through blowing his soul into him. Just merely blowing the soul into Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. Of course, you and I are the children of Adam. We carry the same soul at a lower level. We have all of these capabilities through this ilm that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided. And then he goes further by saying, مَعَجُونًا بِدَتِينَةِ الْأَلْوَانِ الْمُخْتَلِفَةِ. Of course, we mentioned that from different colors. وَالْأَشْبَاءِ الْمُؤْتَلِفَةِ وَالْأَزْدَادِ الْمُتَعَادِيَةِ وَالْأَخْلَادِ الْمُتَبَايَنَةِ. This is where more intricacies come play. He is a mixture of clay of different colors, cohesive materials, divergent, contradictories, and differing properties like heat, cold, softness, and hardness. Imagine a being that has opposite forces in him. Imagine a thing which carries hot and cold in it, right? You can either have a hot coffee or a cold coffee. You can't put hot and cold coffee in the same cup, right? It will be some sort of mixture of the both. Imagine something which is hard and soft at the same time. Imagine someone which has variety of colors together at the same time. The azdad, the opposites, exist in Insan at the same time. Meaning what? That Insan has patience and has anger at the same time, right? Let's speak from more of a spiritual aspect. That Insan is able to love and hate at the same time, right? You love some and you hate some. So all of these, which are opposites, that exist in Insan. And then a Syed has beautifully said about Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, Jama'at fi sifatik al-azdad. Oh Ali, in your zat, in your sifat, there are opposites that exist. فَلِهَذَا أَزَّتْ لَكَ الْأَنْدَادِ. And that is the reason you have this izzat and honor. Zahidun, Hakimun, Halimun, Shaja. Oh Ali, you are ascetic, Zahid. You are Hakim. You are Halim, forbearing. And you are Shaja, meaning brave. Nasikun, fatiqun, faqirun, jawad. But at the same time, you are the worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are faqir, in a sense, you don't own anything in this world. And you're jawad, there's no one more generous than you. Meaning mentioning the sifat of opposite nature in Amir al-Mu'mineen, that he's jawad, meaning what? He's all generous. And he's faqir at the same time, meaning he doesn't own anything. And that is the zat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So he's a mixture of clay of different colors, cohesive materials, divergent contradictories, and differing properties like heat, cold, softness, and hardness. Then Allah asked the angels to fulfill his promise with him and to accomplish the pledge of his injunction to them by acknowledging him through the prostration to him and submission to his honored position. Basically, in other words, Allah said, I made this promise to you. Now I'm making this person my Khalifa onto this earth. He will be my representative. What do I need from you? Complete obedience from him. First and foremost, how do we check your obedience? I ask you to go ahead and do what? Sajda to him. The first and foremost command to angels regarding Hazrat Adam was what? Do sajda. And that was, of course, there's no time to explain in details. The reason behind it was to be able to show that angels are absolute obedience. And they don't digress from the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Hazrat Adam, of course, there are many mentions of that in Quran. Surah Baqarah mentions that, Surah Anfal mentions that, Surah Bani Israel mentions that, Surah Kahf mentions that, and Surah Taha. These are different places where the sajda to Hazrat Adam ﷺ is mentioned in details. And then it goes to, after the submission to his honored position, so Allah then said, prostrate. فَقَالَ سُبْحَانَهُ أُسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا Iblis. Everyone did sajda except Iblis. Then Imam continues by discussing أَعْتَرَتْهُ الْحَمِيَّةِ. What stopped him from doing so? وَغَلَبَتْ عَلَيْهِ الشَّقْوَةِ. What became the reason that it stopped him from doing so? وَتَعَزَّزَ بِخِلْقَةِ النَّارِ وَاسْتَوْهَنَا خَلْقَ الصَّلْصَالِ. So when Allah said to all of them, do that, Shaitan did not. Why? Self-importance withheld him, and vice overcame him, so that he took the pride in his own creation from fire and treated contemptuously the creation from clay. What did he say? Ana khayrun minhu. I am better than him. Khalaqtani min nar wa khalaqtahu min teen. I've been created from fire and he's been created from clay. Fire, according to Shaitan, is superior to the clay. Although, even hypothetically speaking, you compare the two. Forget the actual creation which is not being mentioned over here, fire and clay. Let's do a comparison of fire and clay. What does fire do? Burns, destroys. Destruction is only caused by fire. Yes, you can use fire to make many things, mold many things, but at the same time, fire usually is referred to destruction, burning. While the clay does what? Clay produces. It brings about things from the heart and the belly of the earth. Many things that we consume and we eat are produced through this earth, while this fire comes and burns all that down. So even if that comparison from, hypothetically speaking, the Shaitan was doing, Iblis was doing, it was wrong. Fire is not superior to earth and clay. And therefore, over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then kicks him out of that place. Thereafter, Allah inhabited Adam ﷺ in a house where he made his life pleasant and his stay safe. He cautioned him of Shaitan and his enmity. Then his enemy envied him, his abiding in paradise, and his contacts with the virtuous. So now Shaitan, of course, wants to do what? He's been cursed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now he wants to go ahead and mislead those who are the inhabitants of this abode. So he charged his conviction into wavering and determination into weakness. He thus converted his happiness into fear and prestige into shame. And then Allah offered to Adam alayhi the chance to repent, taught him words of his mercy, promised him return to his paradise, and sent him down to the place of trial and procreation of progeny. Here, just very quickly, towards the end, as we conclude this portion of the khutbah of Nahj, the first khutbah of Nahj al-Balaghah, we spoke about the intricacies of the creation of Hazrat Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. Here, a lot of time there's a discussion which has to do with the aqaid of Insan. That Hazrat Adam alayhi salatu wasalam disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Allah told him, stay away from shaitan. Allah told him to stay away from shaitan. He made him live in this dar, this place which was, fulfilling and had amn and safety and security, and hadharahu iblis. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warned him of shaitan and his adawat and his enmity and all that stuff. But shaitan, of course, was able to gain access and he was able to mislead. So there's a lot of, aqaidi questions that surround this discussion. That did Hazrat Adam, being Nabi, being Ma'soom, commit a sin? Now our brothers don't have any problem associating sin to Hazrat Adam alayhi wasalam, but we cannot, because Hazrat Adam is Ma'soom, sinless. So how do you justify the two things? The Jannat in which Hazrat Adam was living, there's no halal and haram there. Jannat in which Hazrat Adam alayhi wasalam was living, there's no amr or nahi over there. The place of Jannat, as you and I inshallah will go, there's no halal and haram over there. Kullu halal. There's no nahi or amr over there. You don't have to stop, and there's no fatigue, as the ayat of Quran says. You don't get sick over there. There's nothing that has to do with the evil and the vices of the world over there. So it's the Jannat in which Hazrat Adam was living, there's no halal or haram. Oh, Adam, this is halal and this is haram. So then, Hazrat Adam knew that there's no ma'asiyat, there's no sin in this paradise. He knew that Allah has asked him not to approach this tree. La taqraba hadhihi shajara, as the ayat of Quran said. But he was not sure that Allah has also forbade him from eating from that tree. So going towards the tree was, not listening to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's instruction, but eating from it was not something which Allah had made forbidden. Nowhere does it say, don't eat, la ta'kulu min hadhihi shajara. He said, no, la taqraba, O Adam and Hawa, don't go near this tree. Not eating was not mentioned anywhere. So him consuming the fruit from that tree is not punishable by any means, if there was punishment. But to begin with, there's no halal or haram there. There's in our fiqh, there are two terms. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us, there are certain commands which are called Maulavi. There are certain commands which are called Irshadi. Maulavi are the ones which are obligatory upon us. You must do it. Without it, you don't have any option. And then there are certain options which are Irshadi, instructions which are Irshadi, meaning what? You have the option. If you do the way I'm telling you, it's better. For example, when you enter into masjid with your right foot, when you enter into Baytul Khala with your left foot, right? How many of us follow that? It's better for you. This is not a must. This is a recommendation. So similar is the case over here. This was a recommendation. Iblis, of course, uses this point to, giving this illusion to Hazrat Adam and Hazrat Hawa. And of course, they ate from that place. And this resulted in this tarki awla, where they did not listen to the first and the foremost command, or they did not follow the first instruction. And the athar of that was what? Azab nahi hua Hazrat Adam pe. There's no azab. The athar of that was the zahmat that he had to bear in this world. The zahmat in front of that action that he did over there had to bear in this world. That was the repercussions of it. It was never an azab. Usually if you commit a sin, there's azab associated with it. There's no azab on Hazrat Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. Where was the azab? There's no azab. He was always bound to be sent to this world. Allah had created him. Ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. I created you khalifa for this earth. So he was bound to come here. There was a bahana that was needed for him to be sent over here. But when he came, he had to bear some zahmat. As you and I bear some zahmat in this world. You know, this world, there's a lot of calamities and zahmat. He had to face the zahmat of finding his spouse. They were separated. He had to face the calamity of the killing of his son. By the hands of his own son. And all of these were the zahmat that Hazrat Adam ﷺ had to face. But nonetheless, there was never any azab that came upon him. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.